Well, the opening for this one kind of suits what we're going to look at next because, well, that's kind of what happened to it while it was in service. It went up in smoke. It's an Actiontech 3200 Bonded VDSL Modem that was part of my internet service for 10 years up until yesterday when it decided it wasn't no longer going to work. So we swapped it out. Let's take this one apart before I ship it back and see what went wrong with it. Today I'm going to do teardown on an Actiontech T3200 modem. This was the modem that served me well for the last 10 years. And finally it failed. Now this one has been in service now for, I'm going to say 10 years. Maybe a little longer. I don't remember when I put this one into service, but it's been around for a while. And what this modem is it's a bonded VDSL modem. So it can operate on fiber networks as well as ADSL. For fiber networks, we put an SFP ONT into the modem itself. It fits right in that cage, and then the fiber plugs into there. And for copper, you've got two phone lines, copper or DSL port 1, DSL port 2. On this one, DSL port 1 has failed. So yesterday, I'm trying to do an upload, and I'm like, why is my upload taking so long? Now, I'm still on copper. You guys saw me fixing my phone line a couple of years ago, 3 years ago maybe now. I'm still one of the few people that are still on copper. It's not that I can't get fiber. There's fiber right to the side of my house. It's just getting the fiber into where the modem closet is going to be a royal pain in the ass. There's only a few ways I can get fiber in there. Sure, I could backhaul on copper. I could drill a hole through the wall and put the ONT in the garage like gets done in so many people's homes, and then backhaul using coax or backhaul using Cat5. The problem with that is I've only got one run of Cat5 that runs from the telephone demarc into the house, and I still have home phones, so that would limit my speed to just 2 pairs, 100 megabits maximum, and you know, that's not really any faster than what I get off of the copper line. Right now I've got a run of Cat5 running in. I'm using 2 pairs for the 2 ADSL lines, plus a third pair is for the voice line. So I know it's inevitable at some point I'm going to have to bite the bullet and run fiber in, but just getting fiber to the closet, which is in the middle of a house that's already constructed, and there's no way to do it. There's no crawl space. It's a slab on grade, and there's no easy way to do it. The only way to get fiber in that I can see will be to run fiber all the way around the house, all the way to the back side of the house, into an addition that's on the back side of the house, get into the attic space, and then tie into an existing vent, which will go from that attic space into my mechanical room, which is across the hallway from my communications closet. If I can get into the comm room, then I can get from there, going over the ceiling between the joists, get into the comm room. But the house was built in 2003, long before fiber optic was even a consideration, so there was no consideration made for that when the house was built. So I've been continuing to use bonded DSL ever since, and because I get good speeds, I get around 80 megs down and on average 20 up, which is more than enough for me. But yesterday I noticed that my upload speed was only about 3 megabits, and I was like, what the heck is going wrong? And my download speed was only about 12. So what the hell? So I go in and I see that only the DSL2 light is lit. So, okay, well, my phone's working, so I know that the primary line's working, so the line hasn't gone down. So I swapped the 2 phone lines around, expecting that it would, if it was a problem with the line, that the DSL2 would go out and DSL1 would light up. But guess what? When I plugged the DSL1 cable into DSL2 port, it lit up, and the DSL2, which was previously working into port number 1, it didn't. So that kind of told me the problem was in the modem. Tried a factory reset, nothing, did not make any difference. So I went and grabbed myself a new modem, plugged in a new modem, and as soon as I plugged it in, both ports trained up. So we've identified the problem. This is going to go back for recycling, but before I do that, I figured let's take it apart and just see what is inside one of these bonded modems. I've never been into one, so I don't know what's in there. I would imagine there's a DSP or two. But let's just take a look and see what's inside. And I got to kind of put this thing back together because I'm going to send it back to work, and it'll go through the refurbishment process. But something like this has a hardware problem, so it's not going to get fixed. I'm sure it's just going to get recycled. But I do have to go through the motions and send it back, so I'm not going to damage it opening it up. At least I hope not. The top covers should pop off this thing, I think. Yeah, they should pop off. Just get my spudger in here. I know the top covers do come off because I've seen when people have dropped them, the covers have been loose. So there is the, oh cool, there's the board itself. A couple of big chips under heat sinks here. I'm thinking if I can get the board out, we can examine the board. And I'm going to pull the other cover off as well and see what's under the other side, because I'm sure this cover comes off just as easily. I believe there might be a couple screws that hold the other cover on. Remove a few of these screws and then it should lift off a little easier. There we go. There was one screw there, and there might be one on the other side too, because there's another circuit board in here. Another screw down on this side. It might even be this one. There we go. Okay, so there's the inside. This is the router, obviously. This is the router side. The SFP cage is right there. This is the MoCA port for Ethernet over coax. And on this side, here is the modem, or the DSL interface. I guess this is the modem. I guess it's going to plug right into the other one. If I remove these screws here, this is the board that's going to have a failure. So maybe something like this would be refurbished. But the modem board just unplugs, looks like. Yeah, modem board just unplugs. So here we have the bonded modem. And this would make sense too, because there's different standards that were used for ADSL and VDSL. So they probably had different modem cards for the different CO equipment or central office equipment. For example, we have both Alcatel and there's some Huawei D-slams out in the field, and for example the Huawei D-slams will not work with one of these modems. They only train up in single port mode. They will not operate in bonded mode. We have to use a different model of Actiontech. We actually have to use the 2200, which is it does not have Wi-Fi. It's just the modem without Wi-Fi built in, but it has the Huawei compatible card. But this is the modem card. I'm sure if I went and took the new one apart and put the card from it into this one would probably work just fine, because this is obviously a separate modem card. I'm wondering what might have gone wrong with it. Let's just take a look at this and see whether we can spot anything that might be obvious. So this is DSL port 1 and this is DSL port 2, and as you can see, if you look at the board, they're identical. You've got the two transformers here and some capacitors, one for one channel and one for the other, like one for line 1 and one for line 2. And as we look down on the board, we will see the two modem chips, and I think it's pretty obvious what the fault is. That one there looks like it's got a hole burned in it, doesn't it? So there you have it. There's what happened to my modem. That chip burned up. Oh yeah, that's a hole burned in that chip. So this will go back to, I'll send this back to work, and this is going to go back to the refurbishment place, and I'm sure they'll probably just pull this thing apart, find the same thing that I found, there's a bad chip in it, and they'll swap out this modem card and put this back together, and it will be sent back as a refurbished unit. Because I think this is probably a pretty easy repair for them. They'll just swap out that card and you're off to the races. No test equipment necessary, just use your eyes. You can see they're the same chips, right? BCM8313 or 8303. Anyway, there's the fault. U5 has failed. Goes back in pretty easy. Just line it up and pop the header back together. Drop the 2 screws in. So if we look at the rest of the system, the big heatsink, obviously the board has got a lot of ICs, I'm sure, on it. If we look at the rest of the system, got a couple big processors. This is probably the Wi-Fi stuff. You'll see the antennas. There's antennas along here. One antenna there, another one there. Some more antennas here and some more antennas across the top. Another antenna on the back here. These are for the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz radios. Flash memory, a T-SOP. Construction-wise, these are looking pretty good. So I got my camera just at the right height so that it will focus, or pretty darn close to it. All the way zoomed in. So you can look at what the chips are, and here's a Broadcom processor here. One of our favorite, actually 3 of our favorite surface-mounted caps. These are probably buck converters or boost converters somewhere in here for power supplies. Our WPS button on the front. Some RF shielding. The chip here is a heat sink for something that's under there. But all in all, these units look to be, relatively well constructed. Which is evident because it's been running 24/7 for, I'm going to say 10 years, if not more. I don't remember the exact year I put this one in, but it's probably close to 10 years that it's been running. Factory reset button on the back. LED for the Mocha. You got a WAN port and 4 LAN ports. I'll pull this daughter card out again and take out the other 2 screws, and we'll pop the board out and just see what's on the back side, because it looks like it's populated with components as well. Something big is buzzing around my head here, and if it gets any closer, it's going to see what 5,000 volts feels like. I don't have much patience for wasps and other things that sting today, because one got me earlier. I was taking down an antenna that I put up, one of the Antop antennas that I put up to test a month or so ago, I guess. I've sold it, so I don't keep a lot of the stuff that I get sent. I get rid of it. I sold it, and anyway, as I was taking it down, wasps decided that they were going to build a little nest in the mount for it. And as I removed it, they flew out, and well, one of them got me on the arm, so I'm not kind of happy about that. So here's the back side, another Broadcom chip here. This would be the main processor for the Ethernet ports and so forth. This is the main router switch. These are going to be the RF cans for the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi radios. These cans probably will pop open. I don't think they're soldered down. So there's one can there, and The other one over here, the Wi-Fi antennas connect. There's like 5 connections on here, 5 or 6 connections. There's the other radio there. About 8 surface mounted chips in here on this one, and the other one's got, looks like 3. So one of these is going to be for the 5 gigahertz band and the other one is for the 2.4 band. I don't know which one's which, nor do I care. I'm just showing them to you guys. This is probably the controller for the Wi-Fi, and then these are the actual radio units. The antennas plug into these connectors here. Here are the antennas. There's 2 on the front and 2 up on the top, as you can see here. One there, and another one is here. Those are 2 antennas, and looks like there's another antenna over here. There's 4 more of them here. Those are antennas, I'm sure. Board goes back in like this. It's going to go back and someone's going to open this up and say, someone's been into this one. That's if it even gets refurbished. It may just get recycled, a lot of this stuff. Although I think they're refurbishing these ones just because they're getting hard to get. And we still use them in, there's a lot of communities that are not getting fiber. They're getting the redeployed DSL that's being removed from the big cities. The populated areas which are getting fiber, they are removing a lot of the equipment and redeploying it to other areas that don't have and never will get fiber because they're just too small. So this equipment could very well find itself repaired and put back in service. You know, I had a trouble recently where there was no signal strength on 5 gigahertz. You moved more than about a foot away from the router, and the 5 gigahertz signal dropped off to nothing. And seeing that these have got connectors on them, I'm just thinking to myself, maybe one of the connectors had come unseated, and that's why the 5 gigahertz band wasn't working on this one. I swapped out the modem last week, but I had one where, to say you moved about between 5 and 10 feet away, and the signal went from like it was about minus 60 standing next to the router, which should be a lot stronger than that, and you move like 10 feet away and it was like minus 80. And I'm thinking, I swapped it out, saying, well, the radio's bad, but it may have been just an antenna that wasn't connected properly, and that's why it was bad. Anyway, I'm going to reconnect these and put this thing back together. and then the two screws that go in the bottom. And that has this unit ready to resend back to recycling. Alright, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Let's see if we can get our subscriber numbers to hit 1 million. That would be nice, right? It means a lot to me and to Google for the stats. It's more subs I have, even if you don't hit the bell to be notified. But the more subs actually does help the channel. It helps the stats. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.